Okay, that's what I thought.
That was not the case, we got it fixed.
We used to do the default prior.
Default, right, yeah. Then we
It's
said,
really bad.
yeah, so when you go from white to out, come back, you want to go straight to I press it about.
Alan, where are you? Alan?
So what is
We still apply priorities.
Right.
Regular no later.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Usually sharing is.
Did you get the slides I just uploaded?
No, I'm okay. Sorry about that. You just upload a new set.
Yeah, Ian changed the slide. I
Yay. Did you upload it? I just uploaded it. It's approved.
don't know. Does that put it in meetup code then?
We'll see. Like, we had trouble with that in the past, when you do it the last possible second.
Okay. Well, I asked for slides again, and I'll just present on whatever. No, it's there. Okay.
All right, we're starting.
I got a page through the.
Alan, go.
I'm going as fast as I can.
Take it off.
Say it's done. Okay, 974, of Steam delivery timeouts. So the delivery timeout is defined as hop by hop. There's no way right now to express the cumulative end-to-end timeout across a multi-relay path. Latency sensitive subscribers, for example, needing less than 1 second end-to-end, can't see if a relay has a larger timeout value. But so far, this has not really been an issue. Even like one person who doesn't come to a lot of meetings files this issue a year or two ago. So is this important? Should we just close it?
Again, I think we should close it, and I'll explain why. Is the only solution of this problem's been discussed infinitely many times. You have to have time synchronization to not do it. And though I actually think time synchronization is completely trivial on the modern internet, and this works every time I try and convince anyone at IETF that it's possible to synchronize time between computers, like it's an impossible argument.
Are you saying if we tried to put something in, they would shut us down? Or are you
I'm saying we'll shoot ourselves in the foot if we try and say you must have an NTP synchronized server
well, I
on
definitely
your
would say
relays.
that.
But that's so anyway. I don't want to, and I'm not logged on or what I'm doing, but I just like I agree we should close with no action. But it's not that I don't want this, and it's not that it's not possible to draw a solution for it. It's just impossible to get everyone to agree to it at IETF. My experience.
I have a slide on time stamps later, so we can. I'll make
That might be a better way to do this.
It might be, but why don't we? I'll put the note that like we think we don't need to do anything.
Well, does anybody else have anything besides that?
Yeah, I think we should close with no action.
Okay, done.
There's so many other things you have to propagate it along the path. This is one of them.
Just a reminder to log in the new Meet Echo session, please, either use the QR code or going to data tracker. We got everything.
Okay, so we'll close that one.
Yep.
Should we move authorization alias to an extension? This was hard. So first question, have you implemented or do you plan to implement auth alias compression? I have implemented it.
Raise your hand physically if you.
Yeah. How many have not and do not plan to? Okay. I'm strongly.
Never say never, but like.
I'm strongly inclined to remove auth compression from the doc. Interest is low. I pre-anticipated the answer to that. Show of hands. This is less of an issue in MOQ than it was in HTTP because subscriptions are long-lived. So you don't have to give the token every second or every 2 seconds. You give it once on the subscription. So it's not as dramatically bad as it maybe would have been in that environment. Once we introduce BiDi streams, it reduces the effectiveness of what you can do without making the software fancier or without something that's like has the complexity that QPAC has to manage things coming on different, like the token that was sent on this stream is now being used by this other stream, and how do you make sure it's available before you process it? I wrote an extension that does this. It's called MOQPAC. You can go see it in the link. Basically, it's like it defines for every control message we have, there's a parallel control message, which has all of the parameters and track namespaces are in a compressed block, and it uses QPAC to, if people want to have compression, then we can compress track names, you can compress auth tokens, you can compress everything in a way that works across QUIC streams. And I kind of think that having this off compression scheme in our document is gonna draw more scrutiny when we get to end game. People are gonna be like, what are you doing here? So this is my pitch. Just you. Well,
So,
I know this is your baby, and we're trying
yeah,
to.
so let me motivate why we added it in the first place, is because we wanted to protect actions within MOQ. And while a subscription might be long-lived, we just had a discussion this morning about switch from, right? Actively ADR switching. Your subscriptions might just last 5 seconds before you switch again. So now I got to send a token, and I got to send a token again. And the trouble is these tokens are 10 to 100 times larger than the message that's being sent. Hence, the alias. The alias is just a number, and it represents it. So I still think they have a lot of utility. The counter side is we have to invent protections that are not applied frequently, but are just applied at like some macro entry or at setup, which is lowering our ability to actually protect the time. So I would rather simplify the compression scheme if there's a complexity to it. I don't want to go to.
It's the opposite. It's that the current scheme, now that we're on BiDi streams, is harder to make use of effectively. But that you can't use an alias until you get the okay from the message that sent it to the other side.
In theory, you can't, but 99% of the time you
Well,
can.
but if you try to use an alias, it's not there. It's a session.
Right, but the relay could like say, well, maybe one's coming, or are there ways to accommodate that? Because most of the time it would work.
I mean, the answer is what QUIC has done. Like it's already like tried to boil this problem of like things coming on different streams and how you synchronize.
But I mean, even that has failure mode, doesn't it?
What's that?
I mean, even QPAC has failure modes
I mean,
with timing, etc.
I mean, if you follow the rules, it's not like you can,
No, no,
you'll never
but-
get failure.
From that perspective, there are certain conditions you still can't send. It's
Right, in that mode, the peer gets to tell you how many times you're allowed to send something that it has not yet acknowledged that it has. Because that can cause queuing on its side, where it has to hold your request while it's waiting for the other thing to arrive. So there's a tunable in it. I don't want to go into the whole design now. That, someone needs to reset my timer too. Okay, Colin?
I think I'm a little bit on the, so I think we're asking the wrong question of who plans to implement this. I mean, we haven't really implemented auth yet anywhere. And I think once we start implementing and requiring auth and seeing how frequent the updates are, it will suddenly become clear whether it's no big deal to send the 10K requests every time, or whether this is like, half our traffic. So I actually think I think we're too soon to really decide whether we need this or not, and that we need to see this. And I do worry about the AB switches. And there was another case that I was against this to start with, and there was a case that somebody raised where you were going to have to refresh hundreds of subscriptions of things. You're going to have to do like 100 transactions all pretty much at the same time. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, that's a huge amount of traffic. And it was an update case. I don't know. I feel a little bit like it's like we need to implement auth before we need to know whether we need this or not.
Okay. Martin?
I think given that we, as an individual, I think given that we have to fix it anyway, like the current thing is not satisfactory. Let's rip it out, write down as you've done how to do it, and like evaluate that outside the framework of MOQ.
What's the part that doesn't work right now?
Now that we have separate streams,
The draft is not broken. It just says you're not allowed to use an alias unless you've gotten the okay for the message that
Oh.
sent it to the peer.
okay.
so it's very simple to implement.
So never mind. Okay, then it's not broken.
I mean, no one has implemented, I have implemented it, but I haven't implemented that piece. I just turned it, in draft 18, I just turned it off. Because I don't want to deal with it.
We just got token implementations in the last couple of weeks, so it's like,
Okay.
I don't know ways to go here.
Victor?
Yeah, given that we now have holiday string, might be or something for this.
Suas?
I did get private by some cat token implemented. Size of that is around like 400 bytes. That token is now again, the token is specified in limited actions, but its action simply is more. And also, if you're depending on crypto you use, or token it might go bigger. So having said that, I am also in color on this one. I think that we are not at the point of this.
I'm just gonna echo one comment I see from Mike in the chat, which is, it's maybe too early to remove it, but moving it to an extension seems reasonable. So we could just take everything that we have and just move to another document, which is like, if you want, this is the core, you send the tokens every time. It's already effectively gated by a setup option, which is all you need to make it an extension. So it's fine. It's not totally different if we write it in another place and shrinks our document by 500 lines. Do people have a problem with that approach, or?
I don't have a problem with the lines. I feel that, we even have gotten time to try it out to see if I think about it and then make the decision about maybe it's moving.
Okay.
Again, I'm assuming that this is a time where we have open source libraries now to use more, so use all schemes. We will give at least some time for people to try it out. It's too early.
Okay. So I guess I'm hearing mixed feedback. Some people are on team extension, some people are on team too early.
The Zulip is very pro extension, but obviously they're.
The Zulip is pro extension. I see you, I don't know if I want to call it on a show of hands. I guess I'm willing. I didn't see your hand shoot up about who's going to implement this soon. So are you going to?
We're implementing.
Oh,
We can't start a trial until this is implemented.
the compression scheme?
No, the authorization scheme.
Right. Are you going to implement in compression and tell me if it's useful or not?
Yes.
Okay. By when?
It's done. It takes time, but we have
At the same time, you're gonna have the spec ready for working group last.
Fair. I'll let you know. It might be, you've got like 2 months to show that you really need what's in there right now, or then I think it goes to.
Curious why you picked this instead of something more pervasive like track alias. How do you pick auth alias and not track
Okay,
alias?
this issue was filed a long time ago by somebody else, and I'm disclosing issues. You want to file an issue about track alias, fine.
Do you expect MOQ to progress things to not need track alias?
No, not, go read MOQ, or go watch the HTTP session from IETF 125, like where we talk
Track
about
alias doesn't need because it's offers, it's thinking compression.
It's just, it compresses everything, compresses
Track alias is a
databases.
compression for track name, right?
Yeah, but not in the control
Auth
plane.
alias is a compression for a big token.
Sorry, auth alias doesn't, it has the same problems that the other one does, because it relies on in order processing in order to work, and it's also only using the control plane, not the data. It's only using the data plane, not the control plane. So anyway, go read MOQ. Tell me what you think. I guess this is sort of temporarily reparking this issue, but with a countdown.
Yes. To run a timer on it.
Yes.
Okay.
If nobody produces and saying like I have to have this, then and here's the data that shows how valuable it is to me. Like, I don't know, 2 months.
No, I'm not on the timer thing. Let us.
You said last call's currently, first last call is going out in mid-August.
Well,
And if I'm late, I'm
is that
late.
your decision or somebody else's?
Okay, that is my target.
My thing here is like, we're working on this as fast. We're gonna figure this out. There's a lot to be done on off on this stuff. And this is at the tail end of off, yet the draft is missing most of the off stuff.
That's sort of for me another reason to take it out.
No, but I just think we need to figure out the off. I'm not on team take it out or not take it out. I'm just saying, trying to decide this today makes no sense whatsoever.
I'm trying to decide on everything. I'll move on.
But you're denying the fact that off is missing from the draft, and we need to figure that out, right?
I mean, there's off, there's a place to carry off, there's off, there's hat for MOQ, which is an off, there's passages, there's out.
There's no discussion in the draft. And I've brought this up many times. Okay, there's not an issue about it, but it's a big topic, right? We need to say what things you off and when. When do you evaluate the?
What does that have to do with compression?
Well, look, if you don't have to authorize updates, this bug isn't relevant.
I'm happy to move on.
But I'm not agree, I don't
I understand
understand
you
the
don't-
consensus, like, we're gonna have a timer on this and it comes out in 2 months. That's what you're saying. If the chairs want to say that's the consensus of the working group, I'm glad for the chairs to say that. But that's what needs to happen here if you want to put that
I
in.
appreciate it. And thank you for correcting me. Chairs. What would you
I
like?
don't run it, so let's wait, see, and when it's relevant to do the kind of final next round of cleanup, we can.
I'm very satisfied with that.
Yeah.
When we get to a decision point, we'll make a decision.
So we're way over time on this, but I'm sorry, so there's two designs, there's the current design and there's MOQ. And what is the relative position of those two things?
We do not have time to talk about MOQ. If you would like, I can fill in.
Well, no, so what, I don't want to describe it, what is your intent of that draft versus the?
My intent of
If you
that
wanna-
was like, if we really want to get the maximum possible compression, out of MOQ in general, not just auth, but also track namespaces, et cetera. Given our BiDi stream design, I think MOQ is what we want.
That can happen in parallel, right?
Yeah, and I don't really care if it does or not. I let people decide if they want compressor.
So do you want to replace
first
the
two-
current, do you want to replace the current scheme with MOQ in the
Potentially,
not the draft?
when people decide that compressing is a big problem, we can look at it.
Not in the core draft though. I mean, even QBack wasn't technically.
Yeah, but you
All
can't.
right, well.
Can we roll?
All right, let's move on.
Happy to take feedback on my repo and code back if you want to read it. I'm happy to talk about it anytime, but Suhas, these are your slides. Enjoy.
Okay. So this is, I think this was a issue opened by Magnus a long time ago. The idea here is that like we have end subscribers and your original publishers. Original publishers announce or send published namespace, and some tracks automatically kind of end up end subscriber. There's no way to verify is that publisher allowed to or authorized to publish or not. After looking through, thinking a little bit about this is today we have a text that basically says that somewhere like the spec says receiver verifies publisher is authorized, but it's kind of a blanket statement. It does not clearly say what specifically it means. But if you really think about it, the way our auth token works is hop and hop. We do not do an end-to-end authorization anyway. So the idea here is that we need to add resolution here is that add in the security consideration section. Basically talking about different roles in the sense that what would be a publisher to relay, what would relay verify being authorized by publisher. And in the subscribe namespace case, when namespace comes in a published namespace matching that subscribe tracks basically comes in, what are the auth that you do with the subscribe tracks or subscribe namespace in everything under that as a factory would inherit that authorization, the trust. And same way between relay to relay, there might not be, we do not define anything, right? But the expectation is that a relay would, once a relay authorizes a publisher on the ingress, if it does not authorize a publisher on the ingress, it will not forward that on the ingress. There might be an out-of-band mechanisms where an application can control the identity and authorization associations between the publisher and the end subscriber, but our the MOQ core transport would not define.
So I think we got a whole bunch of assumptions here. We probably disagree with them in that design here, but I don't think it's hop by hop. And the use case we described before was you're going to send a subscribe. I'm not talking about announce here, okay? Because it's more complicated. A subscriber sends something to a relay. The relay sends it to the original publisher. And the relay might want one token, and the original publisher might want a different token that you're going to authenticate with. And this was one of the reasons that we put the support for multiple tokens in. And there might even be another relay network in there, and you had 2 different authorization tokens for relay networks, plus one for the original publisher. So I don't I don't think it's hop by hop.
No, the problem is that parameters are hop by hop. All parameters.
Sure, but we're going to have to put statements in that these ones are copied from upstream. Right? Lots of other things are copied.
Also, all subscribes are aggregated or can be aggregated.
So
that's why parameters are hop by hop.
So the authorization of the subscribe is one of the more that is one of the I think issues that is going to be one of the most difficult things for us to deal with in this draft before we're done.
Please file it today.
So but just to capture high level thought here, what I'm saying is very similar to what you're thinking. I'm not saying what I'm trying to say is that once a subscriber sends an authorization token to the relay, and then what relay does, let's say another hop is the original publisher, right? That token might be different, but the scope of the token for the validation is that hop. If that publisher is allowed to publish, then this subscriber will be subscriber will let to get that data. Right now we say receiver verifies publisher, it doesn't. So what proposal here is that it speaks about when a publisher publishes something in an auth token, what does relay authorizing that means. The same thing, relay to relay will not say much. Document and subscriber to publisher. Yeah, I see your concern is
Maybe we're getting to the point we should get a design team to think about how authorization works. You guys,
just to sort of clarify what I think is going to be the complicated problem to deal with is we have 2 subscribers that came up with possibly different auth tokens. And so the first subscriber comes with auth token A. Subscribe, the relay says, yep, that's a great token. It sends it up to the original publisher, says, yep, that's a great token. And then the second relay comes, or sorry, second subscriber B comes with another off token B, and the relay goes, that's great, but I like your token, it looks good, but now I have to make the decision. Should I give you the data that was authorized with off token A that's already flowing to me, or do I need to do something else to check that off token B is valid or not? And like, there's a bunch of things we could design for this space. Ecker and I have discussed this for many hours. There's whiteboards, like, it's not a short conversation. But we'll have to make some trade-offs to make a relay network quite.
Can I interject and say, as chair, if we take an action item to form a design team on off and punt this issue to that design team?
I'm comfortable
Stop
with that.
talking about it.
I mean, can we form the design team?
Does anyone have someone with something to say that?
Oh, yeah,
Received by
this
that?
actually, I think if auth is top by hoc, we don't have the problem you just mentioned. Because the token is just for who you're sending it to. That relay is going to have a different token to talk to the next relay. And the relay that's exiting the network and going to the original publisher will have another token. So I really think auth is
It's a possible model, but that's, I mean, that model has issues too, so
it has issues,
yeah,
but
that's,
it's.
Magnus, is this all making sense to you? You're following what we mean?
Yeah, I'm fully
Okay,
in that.
All right, next issue. There'll be a design team. Well, there's
Okay.
more off.
Thank you.
If there's more off, then you can.
This is also
Oh,
related, yes?
Did you ask about yes or?
No, I'll just do it on the list.
On the list, then I think, yeah.
Yeah, this is also the second so far. I think we can punt this one up.
Okay. We'll also move 1503 to off because it sort of falls in the same space. Thanks for making the slides to us. Okay, lightning bolt. Do we need to allow multiple ranges in a fetch request?
Location filter will solve.
Well, look, okay, let me finish. Look, so now that we have filters, you can already do some of the things that you couldn't previously do with fetch, right? I can, if I detect that I'm missing all of the subgroup and it's every odd object, like one of the reasons this issue was filed was so if I had every other object in my cache, I have to make, I want to make one fetch for like all these little mini ranges. But now that we have filters, if all those objects go into one subgroup, you can just say like, oh, I'm trying to get, or I already have a subgroup 0. Can you give me something else? So that's one. Mo, I think what you're saying is location filter will let you spell multiple. Does your
Not
proposal?
today, but we could make it, all the other filters, all are multiple ranges. Location filter, if we do it, straight from 1401 does not support multiple ranges, but it would be more in line with all the other filters if we did let it support multiple ranges. Because the syntax of all the other filters is multiple ranges.
Maybe that question is, do people want this then, or do people want to keep it simpler?
Because you're not going to do the silly case of alternating ones.
Well-
Because you might have a range here, a range there, and another range there.
Is there anybody who really doesn't want this? I have a fairly complex implementation, and I thought about like, I'm not sure if I would really want to like go scan for all my gaps and then make a fetch for that. Like it's more like, I mean, a lot of people do it simply. It's like, I hit the first gap, give up, get the rest of the group. Like that's one simple strategy, and then another one is like, I'll fill every hole. But like finding all the holes is a long process too.
I mean, if you're going to do 20 fetches, you might as well put them in one fetch. It still seems the same amount of work to me that you gotta find, you're gonna figure the 20 out sooner or
The
later.
mechanics are simpler. So the simpler one is just you want 3 ranges, make three fetches for them, and you will get it. And there's
I can't count the number of implementers who've been like, you mean I have to fetch each one individually?
I'm not give them the cake. Okay. Michael,
I would just like to point out that in HTTP we have range filters.
and they can be disjointed.
And like this problem is like, I don't want to say solved, but there are already like many implementations that you have to deal with that, and it's nothing new.
pulling a gigabyte file to the edge to deliver the last 5 bytes.
And like if it's split, it may be split over multiple sessions. Like this problem inherently exists, like these joint fetches.
Okay. You don't think anybody's like, I'm not super eager about implementing it, but okay. Ian,
How are they gonna be delivered? Are they gonna be delivered on one stream, or is it gonna be like ranged, it's like its own stream? I'm asking a question, what don't we
Crazy track point previous.
We have not written any PRs, but I think Victor and I were tasked to look at the spelling for the fill fetch. My rough stab of it, which is not written down anywhere, is when you give a parameter, that is a stream. You're asking for one fetch stream in a parameter. Within that parameter, a location filter can have multiple ranges. So if you put 4 ranges on that one stream, then you're gonna get a fetch stream with 4 ranges in it. You'll see the discontinuity in the middle of the stream.
I mean, I guess it's okay because you,
Do we think it's complicated, or do we think people are gonna screw up the fact that like fetch streams have implicit like gaps and things in them, and so like a person reading a stream needs to keep track of like it's like I asked for this, I got this, like keep doing the like incrementals and math. I don't know. Maybe it's fine.
like, I'm not enthused about implementing it.
It's
easy to write down.
The fetch response thing should clarify what a gap is. Fetch response is already required to say whether the gap is intentional or unknown or does not exist, right? So you could just say unknown.
Are the ranges allowed to overlap? Good question, Victor.
Yeah, the classic. I was like, objects 1 through 1001, 2 through 1002.
No.
I would say no.
I would say no.
With Delta encode everything, right? So you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
brilliant.
If you're gonna put it on one screen, I think they can overlap. I think it's what you said.
Okay.
There's no way to spell it.
So-
Anyway.
Yes, people want this, and we'll do it with a location filter and fetch. Is that what I hear? Anybody want to object to that?
Well, I mean, should we send each range one after all, or?
There'll be a one, I mean, you can always still send many fetches. No one's taking that away from you. But if you have multiple ranges and you can send them.
If we send multiple ranges in the fetch, are they treated one by one, or are they treated at the same time?
I think it's coming back on one stream. If you want them on multiple streams, make multiple fetches.
When I send a fetch 1, 2 on 5, 6, are they sent simultaneously? Like a 1,
You'll get a
5,
stream
2,
with
6,
1, 2,
or
5, 6.
1, 2, 5, 6, and we need to have like a continuous ranges in order.
They have to be like that anyway because of the delta encoding in the filter. It's impossible to specify overlaps.
So if you say 5, 6, 1, 2,
No, you cannot.
You can't. You have to do it in order.
Everything is delta encoded on the wire.
We're out of time on this one.
Okay, I think Ian, you have it written down?
I've written down it, but is the answer that we do want to support them, they come on one stream and they can't overlap. Okay.
Okay, not the outcome I was expecting, but at least it was fast. Renumber everything. I don't think we're gonna do anything immediately, but yes, we plan to renumber everything. When the time comes, we will make sure all the enums start at 0 and have no, and are contiguous and are sorted in an appropriate order. So we will repart this issue. Ian,
Yes.
your favorite issue?
Yes. Okay. Flow control. There's a PR for flow control. If we want flow control, it limits the total number of streams and the total number of bytes sent on a subscription. It uses control messages on a byte stream. Like now that we have a byte stream, it doesn't require reset stream out or anything. It's actually quite straightforward. Alan wrote another PR that's actually, I think, slightly better PR. They're basically the same proposal. And just took mine and improved upon it in terms of clarity. I mean, it's not an overly complex mechanism in the scheme of things, but it is something, in terms of, if you only want to do bytes, for example, you can only do bytes, and then you end up with something that's very similar to, standard stream flow control on single stream, but it's across multiple streams. So, in the past, the work group hasn't expressed a ton of enthusiasm for it. If we did want to do subscribe style delivery in the distant past, I think we probably have to do this. Okay, and so I mean, my takeaway from what the working group wants is that probably proposing this or moving this to like a extension or something makes the most sense. But like, I want to give it one more go around before we go that path.
I'm not finding this PR where it's,
Which one?
what's the number? It's not 11, I'm sure about.
PR11 is in my repo. A-frame, not
You have
translation.
to,
Those low numbers come from.
you have to link them. Yeah, sorry, but
you click that link or just go to GitHub A-friend mock hash transport. You'll find all kinds of secret stuff I work on, and I dream up things that I don't want to share with you guys.
But 1591 gives you the shape of it. I mean, it's, if you're looking for the concept of it, it should be fine.
I mean, you want, I guess I could put feedback on the message or something, but I guess the thing is like, if we're going to do something like this, I think limiting the rate would also be really important. I'll have Magnus define how to measure the rate. That's impossible, but that would be Magnus's trouble.
I mean, you can kind of, I mean, you can limit the rate by limiting the bytes, but it's a little tedious, but it's.
But this is not like I have no idea whether a conference call when it starts is going to last 5 minutes or 5 months. Like literally they go for 5 months. So I can't put in a reasonable limit for bytes, but I could put in a reasonable limit for rate.
No, but you keep feeding it credit. So like you, as you consume, say you have like a.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. So you just keep feeding it credit. So functionally it works. I mean, it's a little bit tedious, but like it's not really. I mean, you have to add packets to it, like to get congestion window back. So it's like similar amount of work.
And granted, I wrote one of these PRs. I don't remember anything about it. So if you're out of credit and subscribe, you still queue it, and then the credit arrives, it just flushes late.
Yes,
But still subject to delivery timeout.
Yes, and at some point you do deliver like too far.
And then you can still get too far behind. Like that counts against your queue.
So I mean, it basically gives you the same flow you get with like a fast stream, but like on subscribe. So that's the intent. Is imagine you had fast stream flow control on subscribe.
I mean, I have not seen a lot of people jumping up and down saying like, I really want to do this. So I think maybe the thing to do is have it in an extension, and maybe people will play with it and find that it's useful. And MOQ v2, just like whatever Speedy v2 didn't have flow control. You should have had flow control.
I sort of like the other big topic that I think is the DDoS stuff that we haven't really got into the draft yet or whatever. It seems like this may be a very plausible solution to resource exhaustion types that we have identified in the DDoS draft. It seems like we haven't, like, again, I mean, we need a design team for DDoS, or we have a design for DDoS.
This is less about DDoS because it's often this, well, I guess if the relay team's publishing to you, you can sort of throttle them in.
Look, I don't know. I had always imagined there would be some way to rate limit things, like rate limit data, not control messages. Like control messages will not be how the system's killed. So I thought there'd be something that you could do with rate limiting data, and this seems like sort of it, though I can't read, I haven't read the PR, obviously. I don't know.
We can retarget for like, and actually, like, we can plan to talk about the next virtual term in more detail. I'm happy to, I can make a slide that goes into it in more detail and like update my PR to take whatever Alan's changes that I think are good.
You're just trying to simulate what you get with fetch. So you're just trying to aggregate all the subgroups and saying for this whole batch of subgroups, here is your limit.
Yeah, here's the total number of bytes you can set. Yep. And there's also a stream limit too if you want to use that. So say you're in a situation where like I have 100 streams and I want to give this subscription 20 of them, but not more than 20, then you basically make sure that a single subscription doesn't consume more than 20, which for a relay is kind of nice because you're going upstream and you're trying to like approximately fair share probably between a ton of subscriptions. I mean, this is mostly realistically probably really valuable relays where you have a lot of people who are competing with kind of the same resources and potentially like someone down might like just stop consuming or like there's bad.
Because right now your only hammer is unsubscribe. Right now your only hammer, you have forward 0 and unsubscribe. If you don't want the other person to send it.
And reset streamer.
And stop sending.
And fetch is a stream, so it has flow control, right? Like that's it just has it because it works, but subscribe is not.
I was gonna say like since this has come up a few times and people have, it sounds like maybe now people are more interested in this. Like, what can we do to make sure that we actually advance the ball?
That's what I was saying. How about
to be completely honest, I'd rather get our off stuff straightened out first before we did the DDoS this stuff, because I think that the off stuff solves lots of that. So like, if I was sequencing these, I would get off done in the draft as of something coming up fairly soon. Once we got all the currents, I'd get all the current stuff we have in play landed, right? And then start the off discussion, and then start the rate limiting discussion.
Victor's in queue also.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
I didn't do it. Sorry.
Yeah, the description, it sounds like a real problem. The solution does not solve it. Like, it is not orthogonal. It is not true that we do not have flow control for subscription. We do have flow control for subscription. The subscription are implicitly flow controlled in the sense that you either have to consume data at the rate it's generated, or eventually you will get timeouts or the too far behind. And that is because of the nature of things we transmit via subscriptions. You kind of have to consume it at the rate. And that's why it's flow control, because that's how the rate of the receiver gets aligned with the rate of the sender. Now, there might be other issues with like someone sending traffic that is too high rate for the network or things like that. And we might need to account for that, but I don't think great fast flow control solves that. It does not seem to be the right tool for this problem.
We're out of time.
I know, mixed opinions. I'm not sure exactly the position. It sounds like people are interested in hearing more. Maybe we'll schedule it for a future virtual, or I guess maybe ask for the end time. I don't know. I just want to make sure people come prepared so that we don't get any.
If you can take the PR level and make a new PR out, and that would help us review that.
Sure, I can make,
Or,
yeah, I can update your whatever. I mean, that was written long enough ago, probably needs for everyone anyway.
what's the final?
Is it related to the ghost subscription as well, the upstream?
No, I don't think so.
We could mix everything here if we have a design team doing this, because it is resource consumption related to a subscription, not off a subscription, but it's it could be the same, right?
I feel like that's a different problem.
This seems like a big discussion risk to me, and I would like to move it to an extension. I'm not sure we agree that we need it, and this seems like something that is going to be hard to get right. Like there's an initial PR, but this is a potentially quite complicated mechanism that is going to take a lot of information, too much experience to get right, and like it's barely even proposed at this point. I don't like a good idea at this stage of the game.
Okay. All
So,
right, fair.
make it an
I think
extension.
we'll try to bring this back in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And
So I would
a little bit more
I
time.
would say move it to an extension, but that's as an individual, not as chair, but.
All right. I'm gonna roll on. I think we have enough. Let's
Okay.
plan the next step. All right, thank you. So there's, Ian, I'm gonna skip over timestamps, because I think it's gonna fill the time, and I'm gonna go to reason phrases, because this is the last. There's two reasons. So this is our good old fashioned, I think, comes from reason phrase. And the pro of having a reason phrase is that it significantly improves developer experience. The con, everything of value should be structured, and everything with no value should be removed.
I made my peace with losing on this one.
Oh, in that case, I'll close it. I don't know, let me ask the question. Does anybody feel strongly that we need to remove reason phrase entirely, besides Colin, when we should?
If you remove it, the message that you send will not come anymore, right?
Oh, the one that says, go ask Colin about this, yes.
If the phrase was helpful, you know, keep it, but most people are gonna have to look up the phrase anyway in the spec to see what the hell does that mean.
I don't know. I mean,
Text is probably not gonna be enough.
raise your hand if you've gotten a reason phrase during interrupt, that has helped. It definitely have. Very useful.
I will put in one negative thing on this, is that I do think that specifying it as UTF-8 without doing all of the things that you need to internationalize it will bite us in IETF last call. And I actually think that there's all kinds of security, like allowing UTF-8 in there, it like opens a ton of security fun. I mean, I was already planning on updating the relay to send a different message that read the same and correctly rendered, but was different every time on every message. It's like, there's a lot of fun. So I think I'm not a hill I'm gonna die on, I don't really care, but I actually think you would get through the ISG faster if the reason phrase was not UTF-8.
I'm gonna, that's a good place to transition to the next issue, which is very related.
Counter proposal is, get the phrase, the real problem we've had spent many hours debugging is we have no idea what the hell actually closed the session. So if we had a number for every place in the spec where it says protocol violation, you can't put that. You have to put protocol violation in a number.
Yeah.
A unique number. So then anybody that hits it, oh, I hit this. So you turn protocol violation into a pool of like 50, how many ever times it appears in spec? A pool of 50 numbers. And you put in the spec the number every single time. So you know whether
I 100% behind that.
we've spent many hours debugging things, and we're like, what the hell happened? Why is this closed? And you don't know until you trace through.
All right, well, I'm going to channel Christian and say there's a bit of security risk and just be too specific about how you fail. I kind of assume you're just going to rip these out at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'm also not going to die on this hill, but I'm kind of with Colin.
So I'm gonna bring up the second issue, which I think may operate from path forward. We might have just so Sue has filed this today, which is that wants to have an error payload in request error, which is for structured binary data. And I think if I understand the use cases that privacy pass sometimes needs to fail you with unauthorized and give you a challenge or something that you need to complete the next step. So this issue got opened and there's a PR that does it. So we should decide, like, is this something that we want to add? Do we want to add it only on certain error codes? And then I want to think about what's the intersection with reason phrase, because if I'm remembering one of the HTTP specs correctly, they don't have reason phrase, they have debug data, which is defined as a binary blob, and you can stick whatever it now. Some people would ask the strings in there, but that's like one potential option. So I don't know, Sue, do you want to say more about this particular use case?
Again, the thing is that I had two options. One is that because in privacy pass, you do the first part of the setup, you're not getting challenged, and then the relay will ask you to go perform some challenge and come back with the data. That's the reason we wanted a way in setup, in fake setup, to come back with an answer. And we can, the two ways to do this, right? Do something like this, or you find a new auth error kind of a method, because this is very specific.
Well, the setup doesn't have a response.
This is just, I think this is and like, again, this is where in the category of stuff that I was like, when we get to auth in the draft, we'll fix this, okay? But I don't think we should do this with an error. I mean, pretty much every auth token scheme that isn't a bearer token has a challenge phase. And so anytime you send up any request, you're going to need something that looks like an auth challenge to it that needs to pass back a authorization
So
scheme.
like a separate message for.
I suspect it's a different message. Or something like that. I mean, we need a design for this one way or another. We have to support this, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that work for you? Okay. All right, so we'll close this. We're not going to do it here.
I think we need to figure out how to spell this.
But it's not this way.
But not this way. That's my goal.
Close the PR, change the issue.
Change the issue to say we need a way to have.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So yes, so the auth design team can figure it out, and I think a new message sounds like a fine way to do. Yeah, if that's what you want.
So the other point I want to make in this space is that now the way we structured it, if it happens to be an immediate request error, we have this reason phrase. But if it's an error that happens later, it's a reset stream, which has no error phrase, and nobody really cares. So like, that's why do we need reason phrase?
I don't know. Like I don't want to spend forever paying the loss here. Like.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I kind of think we ought to have it. I don't know what other people think. I guess H3 doesn't have them in certain places, or QUIC doesn't. But they're in some places, but not others. Someone just needs to make a call. I don't know, if Colin, if we just said it's binary data, do your best. Like, does that resolve any of your concerns about UTF-8?
Yeah, sure, because then people don't try and print it. They try and
They'll probably print it anyway.
I can't help those.
I will.
But like the number of okay, we used to work with a security group, and like the number of attacks we saw that like relied on being able to reverse the bidirectional log message right over top of it and then go forward again and stuff like UTF-8 allows you to do all those things. So like,
I mean I think the text we have on UTF-8 in this particular thing was lifted straight from the QUIC draft, because they have a place for a reason for it. So we've at least tried to copy somebody who smoked past the line. I'm not saying that we won't have more trouble. I don't want. Oh, time is over. What do you think? How should we resolve, chairs?
Resolve this?
Yeah.
I think I heard a lot of. I think people have asked for the debug stuff. I've heard that. I don't think any of the reason phrase haters have a problem with keeping this through the interop phase, right, Colin?
No, okay. Look, here's a concrete proposal going forward. You log in the draft. You put a message in the draft before this is last called. we'll make a call in the working group of whether we're gonna remove it or not. Like, that's just a way, like, punt it to the, like a.
I mean, we're out of time and I want to give it, because I want to give you time to talk about timestamps. So like, I don't know, I'm okay punting it a little bit, but like, how
I
many?
don't care, I'm good.
I mean, let's just make a decision. Let's,
Do we want to remove ETFA tax? I guess is one question.
that's a separate question.
Well, why don't,
I don't think anyone cares strongly. We could flip a coin, we could raise hands, I mean, like, I would like it to go away at the end. I think Colin would, but we're not gonna like yuck anyone's yum if they really want to have it in there from, you know.
if we're gonna remove it, then something like what Mo said, it's like, we can't deal with.
We don't need reason phrases for that, we just need reason codes to be bigger and more detailed than just error, protocol violation. Go, you know,
Well,
good luck.
I guess my point is, I need somewhere to put something more detailed than just like errors we have to make.
But our reason code space is big, right? It's like, it's in a triangle. We can make it as many codes as we want.
I'd rather not actually make more codes, I'd rather literally do something like what I said, which is like put a
64-bit
line.
bar
in
if you get.
Like literally like, this is the line or whatever.
You can have 9
Yes.
If we're gonna have, I mean,
It's sort of like a stack trace, basically.
Okay, I'm gonna move off this, I guess we'll leave it.
if we're gonna have rich feedback, like, just leave it as it is. That's what I'd say.
I've heard nobody say, I want the text or binary stuff that has to happen. Nobody said that, right?
I mean, I want the text.
There's one reason, vector code expects it to be easier. And we wrote it as binary.
But nobody cares about whether there's anything in the UTF-8 or binary, right? Nobody said, I need data in there, right?
I mean, I want to.
It's null for everybody.
So,
Are you saying I don't send reason phrases? I absolutely do.
Do people care about it?
I care, at least for now, I care.
Alan definitely, we got at least one.
I mean, for HP3, I do, I use them all.
So, all right, if the desire is to have this really rich feedback, like with like a million codes, I would say like, let's just leave it as it is. Like the point is to confine the feedback and stop to mess with the protocol. We're just gonna end up recreating this in a different structure. Let's just leave it as it is.
I have one question. Would switching this to binary data allow us to make it through the hurdles that you're anticipating?
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, if you, like, I mean, I'm just sort of saying that the problems is when you use U2F8, you're supposed to define a normalization form. And we don't, like, if we want to do the things that you're supposed to do when you do UTF-8, like have a normalization form and things like that, it'll go through no problem. We just haven't done all the things that UTF is required to do.
Which is why US ASCII would be much simpler, because then you don't have those such requirements.
Or binary, or like, this is 8-bit binary data, like, you know.
We already have a 9-byte binary field.
Okay, I want to give the rest of the time to Ian. Like,
Error code is a 9-byte binary field.
let's spend, you'll love arguing about timestamp more than you love arguing about.
I love, I can just complete one, like,
All right, Ian, you're up, and you have 12 minutes.
Talk about this some in the past, but I think we now have more experience to have way more informed conversation, and maybe we get a real direction out of it, so I will try again. Conversations around ATS release, for example, have been very helpful in providing some like real world and switch, like how people are actually going to do like track switching and such. Okay, so potential use cases for timeline tracks is, you know, audio and video, for example. When you're trying to keep them approximately in sync. So like this is particularly valuable if you have like a small-ish jitter buffer, but like it's not like 50 milliseconds, it's more like 2 seconds, where it's very easy for the audio to actually get like a good bit ahead of the video if you're not careful, and you can accidentally starve the video if you're not careful and you have a lot of audio. But it also could be very helpful for keeping tracks in sync that are like from different productions, so like video conferencing, any other time you have like 2 different video feeds that you want to keep approximately in sync from like a delivery perspective. So again, this is all about delivery. This is not about playback. This is just there to try to make sure that like you don't have buffer underruns because you like, you know, sent all of one thing and none of the other one, essentially. So time sync across publishers is a difficult to impossible problem in the like extreme sense, but as I think Kellen kind of alluded, you know, perfection is probably not required here. Like this is just for delivery. And so, if we can get sufficiently accurate timestamps, hopefully it actually might still be like a net win. And also, there are a lot of use cases where even if the time isn't quote unquote synchronized, it's like maybe they're all from like the same data center in the same like region or something, right? I mean, like these clocks can be reasonably close, like maybe where they're transcoded, things like that. So there's a lot of use cases where we might be able to get this. And I would agree with slide Will, and I was going to say, DTS currently uses group alignment, which seems to work fairly well. Probably could use a timestamp if it's available, but I think DTS has proven that, like, at least for that one use case, like, probably group alignment is at least sufficient. It's not required, like timestamps aren't required, even if they could be used. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment. DTS doesn't actually, it's just requiring group IDs to be consistent. They can all completely different media times or something like that. It doesn't matter. And also when you're syncing media, you're not going to do it with the timestamp carried on the delivery item. You're going to do it with a much more accurate time signal that's embedded in coding, like iso-based media file format, time-based, then a second time. So this timestamp then would be useful if we say allow filters or something that is a property of block transport. I only want objects through that are signaling this timestamp. But that timestamp is just a number. So couldn't we, and you can already define an existing property, which is a number. So is this really about just standardizing a property and saying it is a timestamp and here's how you write it?
Yes, basically, next slide. I mean, that is kind of the question. So that a potential proposal I put down, which is like, there's a track and object property for absolute timestamp. So, if it's on a track, then that's like the start of the track. An object property for relative timestamp, so you don't have to like go sensitive to anything about every single time. And then I am proposing that there be something like a time sync group ID, basically a way to associate a group of subscriptions that you all want to keep like in sync. In some way, shape, or form, that would affect like the prioritization algorithm. And that would try to mitigate this issue. Like in the simplest case, the audio and video case of, my audio is higher priority than my video, but if, my audio is now like a second ahead of my video, then send video instead kind of thing. So, I mean, that is a real problem. Whether timestamps are the right solution to it, I don't know, but like that sort of out of sync problem, like, Alan was saying, he was saying recently, but like, we definitely have that. I mean, even at YouTube, we do some stuff that mostly avoid that, but like, it's a real problem actually.
The queue is long, so please talk no more than 30 seconds. Alan.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, this was when we first started talking about priority. This is this use case of like, I don't want one track to get too far ahead of another one in its relative time. It's like definitely something I want to have a solution for. We didn't end up making even the first cut priority design, so I think. But I don't know if we know exactly what we want to say here, so I think extension is a good move. And there are lots of people who are trying to. I think lots of people are wanting to put timestamps in MOQ data and having at least one, like, do it like this, and that's how you do it, and this is what it means, has value. So I think it's a good.
Jordy.
Yeah, I really like that proposal, but the implementation that I did 3 years ago, when I did the rewind window, it was based on that. Exactly, the timestamp that was published, and I knew I was at minute 1, and I requested to rely 30 seconds from now. So, but when I see timestamp in the media space, blows my mind, because there is, as you know, there is a lot of timestamps related to transfer, related to media, related to other, related to media. There is a lot of clocks, not a lot, but few clocks that you can sync. So, as this proposal in general, I like it, but I think if we want to provide people some best practices of how to do it, I think we should be much more accurate defining what timestamp is in this context.
Well,
In MSF, we have defined the media timeline and the event timeline, which are specific tracks, which gives the media PTS the location, the work clock time. So it brings kind of exactly this, but in a separate track. So if we need to have something like this, it would mean that the relay could act based on the property that it gets from the object to do something, but I don't know if it is one of the use cases you have in mind.
Suhas.
RTP carries timestamp, and that's the media timestamp, and that's what we use only if it was like a kind of match audio and video to sync. So at the same time, in log also we have a timestamp header that we carry for something similar purpose, also building the jitter buffer to say how we want to play the things out in the layer buffer. So one question I had is that do you expect this to be only clients, or do you also expect a relay also to say if they're somehow you say that these two tracks to be time sync because the same group time sync group ID? Do you expect that to wait for certain time and then deliver?
I was thinking it was just the final kind of set of subscriptions from the end subscriber to the relay, but it's a good question.
Okay. Yeah. And I think in general, I think there's a value we should spend some time on this one because it comes in different forms in different applications.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I think this is a layer violation. All the use cases cited are all applications for syncing media, and as Jordy just said, different applications write different timestamps in media. They're application defined. We're going to arbitrarily pick some of them and put them on the transport protocol, which is what we're defining here. So, as much as I use and need these timestamps, I don't think putting them into the transport protocol is the best. They should. There's their application utility. They can go and custom define properties. Then the application.
I have a clarifying question on that. So, what if we want the transport protocol to try to deliver them more effectively? Would it be better than to just have the ability to like point at an existing field and say like that field is somehow allows you to synchronize between like multiple tracks?
And call it a sync field.
Sure, that's fine.
Sync field.
Okay, and you can just point at anything. And
It's not time.
Yeah, it's a sync. It's an agnostic sync field. We're like FedEx, right? We deliver boxes. We don't know if there's promise inside the boxes.
That would be fine by me. No, sure. I think that's valid.
Colin? I agree with the layer violation thing, and I love it. So I actually think this time, so I want to use this for something different, which is we debug all the time using timestamps of trying to figure out what's happening across the relay networks and between them or whatever. And often relays will statistically sample a small percentage of the relay of the timestamps and report them up to metric servers and things like that. Okay, and like RTP explicitly designed the timestamp to not be encrypted from intermediaries, it's explicitly so intermediaries can see it, which is like really wild. Like by meaning not encrypted, like I don't even mean it's like inside the encrypted connection, like it's just there on the internet, even when you're using DTLSS RTP, because it's such a useful debugging tool. Okay, and so I think that I'd sort of go the direction, and maybe it's a different extension, maybe I don't go too, but I think it'd be useful to be able to have you know, in like an NTP absolute timestamp of what we think the time of this packet is, that you could statistically drop into some of the objects or all of the objects if you felt like it, and then it could be used for this as well as being used for metrics and debugging processes. And maybe I'm trying to combine two things that are different. And I agree it's a layer violation, but I think this one timestamp is so critical to debugging real-time flows that it's worth having the layer violation for timestamps.
These are send timestamps minted by the sender.
Mike.
Yeah, so I want to echo Bill's point on layer violation and ask, like, can we, I agree that these are very useful properties, and that people will want these properties to exist. They need to be in the base spec. Like, can we, if we want a convention that like standardizes, you know, 10 different types of timestamps, because my concern is there are so many different kinds of timestamps that people will want for different reasons, like different sync sources and whatever, like that this could be a big rabbit hole to go down to figure out like what are the, you know, 2 or 3 that we want.
I think that the thing I would want is kind of the sync field concept of the ability to like someone transport protocol to be able to say like, this is a thing that I want to try to keep these two or five like stream synchronized on. So like, I think that part, that's a direct delivery concept. That's really kind of part of prioritization of it. Okay. I think that's the one
That
thing.
seems generic enough. That's what I wanted. I just want to be careful.
So I like this as an individual. I don't really care what to say. I just think you could actually completely solve all the weirdness around delivery timeout with this. Like on this property, completely. Like all the weirdness we have of like only considering the last hop and all that. It just works. I could write that design in like 30 minutes on how this works to actually have a true delivery time that's useful to the end host. Yeah. Like it totally solves the problem.
You can do that too.
And like that's super exciting because I think delivery timeout sucks as it's currently stated. As I was like file 5 issues about that are unsolvable. Okay, well that's enough time. Colin. Oh, sorry. Never mind. I'm taking myself off. Okay, thank you. All right, we are right at 2:30.
That was every open issue that we think was either trivial or already have time. So we have a bunch of PRs to go right, and we'll go right them, and we will have many fewer issues. Thank you, everyone, for.
Have a great flight. Good job. Will, you're up.
Okay.
All right, if you want to plan.
Your work study. Do you want me to write down how?
Yeah, I think I kind of know, but yeah, what did you get?
Well, and like it can't be a single marker. It needs, but like it needs to be a time or
I mean, like the synchronized playout is such a dynamic, like so many people want that forever, right? Like, and we've got to have an extension that does that sooner or later. I just have never wanted to introduce it. Well, we had like more important things. Like,
I mean,
we can talk about it.
I mean, now.
Will, are we waiting for us to do something?
waiting for the slides.
No? Okay, you want, okay, you want
Oh, I
slides.
got something to do with that one.
Which slides?
The last ones I uploaded.
MSTS, FTS.
MSF and CMSF.
Yeah, that's the one. We got.
There was one that was.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. All right.
How much time?
I originally had an hour.
60.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try to go as fast as possible.
Actually, you know what? Let's get through the issues.
Yeah.
Take your 60 minutes.
Okay. So this is not, we're shifting away from core transport now to associated drafts that we've adopted, MSF and CMSF, and you're going to hear about MSFTS. So let's go. Next slide. So just last week I released draft 01 of MSF. There's a lot of changes in it, and I just wanted to take 60 seconds to go through and tell people what's there, because you may not appreciate what's in MSF and what isn't. So the things that are important, we have end-to-end encryption. This is not DRM, this is envelope encryption of the actual objects. We have the ability to tell the end user to start publishing certain tracks back to us, and also give them a token which authorizes them to publish it. We define two such tracks, a log track and a metric track. So you can instruct a media player to start sending you debug info, and you can also emit QoE data. We have a media timeline template for fixed duration groups now, media with very repeatable durations. We have a URL schema that's defined, so you can reliably hand out a URL and expect players to play it back. We have a reserved fragment parameters for that, so you can define subclips and other features. We've introduced a variable subscription scheme, so now you can inject query args into a cacheable catalog, which has a lot of utility when we're trying to do tokens and ad insertion in the future. We have a token-based auth page, so we have both privacy pass and common access token baked into the spec. We have a full auth workflow. We have payload compression now. It's gzip by default, but it's extensible to others if you want it. We have opened up multiple IANA registries. We've restructured our root catalog fields. Delta update is now ordered, so you can change it. We've separated out the init data, put it at the bottom of the catalog, so it's more human readable. When you debug it, it's developer friendly. And object numbering and a bunch of new catalog examples. So there's a lot of things in there. If you haven't looked at MSF in a while, please look at the latest version. Next slide. And I wanted to point out that Torben Anderson from IBIN has made a validator for it. So if you are producing your own catalogs and you want to run them through a very nice validator tool that will tell you where you're departing from the spec, this exists. So please use it. And if you notice any errors in the validator, also point those out to Torben. Next slide. So first question, updating init data in the middle of a track. Current implementation is you have fixed init for a track, but there's some requests on long-running tracks to be able to change initialization parameters on the fly. So some solutions to this. One, we can forbid you doing this. Two, forbid you, but give you another way to do it, which is produce a Delta catalog update, which basically closes the track and adds a new track. So this is an extra RTT, and also it's a bit weird if you scrub back in time. Like we have to start adding the init changes to the timeline that we described. The second solution, which I prefer, is we create two properties, one an object property and the other a track property. And we allow you to just append the init basically in the data itself, in line. And I have an example on the right-hand side. So this is our new init data list. We've got a default type, which is inline, where we just base64 encode the init data. But there's two other examples down there that hard to see on the screen. One that says, hey, for track 3, it's a track property. So you just go read the track property and we'll define what it is. And the other one is an object property. So if you're going to change midstream, you use object property. This is a proposal. Any feedback on this? Victor?
Yeah, I'm more proponent of number 1 than number 2. So here's the reason. Number 2 is like not actually trivial to implement because it's effectively a cross-track synchronization. Right?
Cross-track sync?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just, you're reading the data from the object, you always inspect the header, you see there's an init data, so before you commit it to the...
Wait, you mean like you would put init segments in every object?
Yes. Well, you wouldn't put it in every object, you put it in every group boundary, but you choose, right?
Every object based.
Yeah, if you're going to change, because that gives you the ability to sync it accurately.
That is more palatable, so this, in most cases, that would not matter since you can just put your init segments as a payload anyways.
Right, it's like self-initializing segments, essentially. So you can do ABC3.
Yeah, I saw that someone complained that there are cases in the hardware does not work.
Yeah.
Well, it's not hardware, it's like platform limitations with DRM.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's out of my league. It's a different story.
So, Victor, assuming you can put it on every object.
Yeah, if this is just like to work around the fact that you can't use ABC3 everywhere, that is fine.
Okay.
Well, I am more concerned about the version where you like have to put a pen to the catalog and then.
Yeah, which I think. Okay. So any objections to creating these? Oh, I can't see it. Oh, there is a few. Sorry, Jody.
So I'm a huge fan of putting init inside the object or the row or inside the data, not in the catalog, because everything is there.
Which we can do, right? Yes, we can do that.
If we go that route, I really like and I prefer. Why are we putting it into the catalog? Because this opens the door to come out of sync. Catalog is saying one thing, object is saying another.
Not necessarily. Why put it in the catalog? Because you only put it once in the catalog, and then for the next 2 hours, you don't keep resending the same data in the pan. So there's a lot of bandwidth savings from not repeating it.
If the data is going to overwrite what is in the catalog,
you wouldn't do both.
I would want just for clarity and simplicity.
Yeah, there's 3 different ways to do it. You choose the one that's best for you. So if your init is never going to change to the life of your track, put it in the catalog. You have it up front, it's one operation, and it's not repeated. So that is efficient. If it is going to change the life of your track, use ABC3. And if for some reason you can't do that, then go add it as the init property, which signals when it changes.
I see, you allow everybody to do what is best for their use case.
Yes,
And that seems fair. My small concern, and I agree with that, I just have a small concern that you are also allowing people to make mistakes.
yeah, they can make mistakes, but we got clear signaling of which type it is. So if your player doesn't read that, then
Overall,
okay. Okay, so Mo.
LOC already defines tract property and object property of property. You can't distinguish it. The tract and object property called video config, that is the event sequence. You want to define another one, a separate one for MSF?
Well, I'm writing a generic format, so that, again, I think putting the log properties in the header is a bit of a layer violation. I've asked before that those properties.
I mean, all the properties have to be registered in one flat IANA table anyway, so that's not a LOC property, it's an IANA tract object property.
Yeah, so, okay, so we've got a problem where you have one and we have another one. Maybe you can use this one for init if we write, because this is generic. It's not only for log, it's for any format that wants to write we'll call it initialization data. But it is in, MSF. So we can either have separate ones, you have a log one, and no, that's a fair question. They're actually not, MSF supports log, so if you've got the headers there, then you don't need to specify them in the catalog.
We never specified it.
Yeah, okay,
I'm
so
saying
then,
this is a property, a tract property, or it could be an object property.
This is
change
more-
mid-group.
this is more useful than you would just not declare any init data list if you're using log, because you don't need to, because you're already specifying it to custom forms. But all the CMSF and the isolation of your file format content, they do need a means of signaling. So you don't have to use this. So I say we just keep what you have right now, and this exists in parallel.
Is what he just explained. So he's allowing 3 different ways to do it. That user and log right now and log me, they are doing inside the web. They already have the init inside an object extension.
So that's, I think we've been having this issue open for a while, and I agree going with something like this would be useful. The only thing is that someone who is using the log and wants to kind of also set it only once per group rather than putting it in the per object, they can still point that ID can point to the ID that log defines. That should be okay, right?
You can, but yeah, it's a bit weird. You're specifying it twice. But you can.
Yeah.
As long as your player knows it can pull it in both. Okay. So for this one, I think for the minutes, we'll make a PR that will add these, and please comment if you don't like it. But the feedback is move to PR. Next slide.
I know you're working on this draft, right? Can you take notes for him as much like Ian did for Alan?
Yeah, PR ready. Okay, so within MSF, we define a generic event timeline track. It's really just a series of records. It has an index, which can be either location, time, or media time. And then it has the data, and the data field is arbitrary, and it's defined by whoever's defining the event timeline. And we've defined a number of event timelines already, and this has proven to be a pretty extensive schema. However, as I get into more sophisticated data types, there's a need for a header, something that's not repeated many times, but is repeated once to make the rest of the information understandable. So I give an example on the right. We just got a header, it's got arbitrary key value pairs, and then we got the data looking just like this. So my proposal is that to our base definition of an event timeline track, we had a header field. The header is an object, and it's defined by the timeline track. That object can be empty, and in fact, the header can be omitted if you want, in which case it looks very much like the track instead. All your records are now an array inside a key called data. That's the only difference. But by giving people this header section, they can communicate a lot of initialization data that doesn't need to be repeated, and there's no other mechanism to transmit it currently.
I mean, those headers in the catalog.
Because you're not writing the catalog. So say you're a provider of sports scores, and I'm a media producer, and all I know is that you're the provider, right? So I just give I give the namespace and name of the track that you're producing, and you produce this event timeline track. So it's decoupled, so you don't have to be able to write the catalog, and the catalog then can just is something I write and it gets sent out, and the catalog is really just a metadata container describing all the tracks that are available. So I point to your track and you produce the timeline. You could add it as custom data to a catalog, yes. But since it's necessary to understand the data in the event timeline track, the thought was to put the two together.
Is it if you have multiple groups, do you expect to like present the same headers every time?
No, the headers field gets sent once, and then all the data rows are there's just
one per group?
No, this is not per group. This is a track that gets sent.
Okay, so like imagine a track, it has to have some group structure, right?
The track is a JSON array, essentially. And if you do a delta update, you just add a new item to that data array. So that is actually a complication, because right now when you do delta update, you just add a new row to your array there. But we can specify that. I don't think that's unworkable.
Yeah, that's what like the problem with headers and MOQ is that we try to avoid that. You have to fetch the header separately from fetching the group itself.
Well, so with the event timeline, you have the notion that if you fetch the event timeline at a group, you get the complete event timeline. And then between groups, you get delta updates.
What do you mean by template?
I didn't say template. I said.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by complete?
Complete group, a list of, let's get the example of a drone flying around and it's GPS.
Let's say it's subtitles of the header is like the character language.
Okay, that's a better example.
Yeah, imagine that's like it's a 10-hour video, and it's obvious like I'm watching a VOD and I need like the hour 8. Like I'm not going to fetch the entire timeline, right?
No, but if you know it's at the beginning, you could fetch. Well, yeah, that's tricky. We actually have a separate draft for WebVTT and IMSC1 over event timeline.
I know that part, but that's like just a good way to reason about things like that. This doesn't everyone understands. It could be instead of like WebVTT, some other like application specific overlay, because applications tend to have those.
Suhas, do you remember in the WebVTT draft when you put static data? Yeah. Okay, so I want to move on.
Would it be useful to have a property for this instead, track property instead of a header on the group? This is for all groups, right? This header is not for one group.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point.
Because this is a track, and you want a header for a track. It's naturally a track property, right?
Yeah, I quite like that idea.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, Gwendol, we'll scrap this header. We'll introduce a track property, which can be used for event timelines, which is just header data. Or maybe we even reuse the initialization field, because it's like initialization data. It looks like that. Yeah, and it's just a JSON payload. It's up to you to define it. Okay, I like that. Next slide. Right, URLs. Should MSF and CMSF use the same fragment identifier? So if you remember inside MOQ, we specified that there's a prefix to the fragment, which is the stuff shown in pink here, that basically tells you, gives you some idea of what's following. So you know, oh, this is MSF. So the question is, for MSF, it's clear we use MSF. For CMSF, which is an extension of MSF, do we use a completely different prefix or not? And there's arguments for this. The argument for is CMSF is a clean extension of MSF, And the prefix tells you how to pass the payload, which in both cases is a JSON catalog that's defined by MSF. So that's the argument to say I should just use MSF all the time because the catalog tells me what's in. The argument against this is that this is nicely human readable. And when I look at this, I say, oh, CMSF. I now have a clue as to, I've got ISO-based media file format content inside, whereas this is going to be log-based. So what do you prefer?
Well, my question is, what do you use when you have like CMF video with log audio? Because for my process, that's perfectly allowed.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I would put CMSF because it's sort of, it's the more complex of it.
CMSF extend MSF, so it contains the MSF.
Yeah, like from my perspective, this is like, what really is not indicating is CMSF. It's like MSF indicating that there is no CMF, and I'm not sure that's like 100% useful.
It's not useful indicating there's no CMF.
Like, yeah, because like if you're going to parse it as a
Agreed. So are you proposing we just use MSF all the time? And
yeah,
then parse the
it's
catalog
like,
to
you
define it?
know, like how there are MP4 files, but then there are like M4A files, and there are like expectations, but in reality, everyone just opens their like ICD.
Yeah.
Rename it so you can
Parse
open
it.
Okay, that's a good argument, Colin.
Look, I'm gonna defer to Victor on this one, knowing more about me, but I was actually gonna make the argument that we should have separate ones, just because it gave more information about, that makes it easier to debug these things and figure out what's going on. But really, whatever, I'm gonna go with what Victor says on this one, but.
Okay.
So what, we use MSF?
We just use MSF because it's basically telling you, here's a catalog that MSF defines. You read that catalog, you'll find out there's CMS. There are some CMF tracks inside it, maybe not all. But let's do that, and then if we run into problems with it, we can start breaking out more exotic prefixes.
And like in reality, if you're an MSF player and only support log, in the things that they described, you can still play audio.
Yeah.
And that happens quite often.
Yeah.
You sometimes open.
Okay, so resolution is just use MSF. Next slide. So this is getting an object and stream mapping. So if you read the spec right now, it doesn't go into too many details of do I map my stream per object, stream per subgroup, or stream per group. This is basically MOQ to QUIC mapping. And my question is, do we need to be specific? There's an open PR for this. I think Suhas wrote it. We're just getting it. Do we need to specify MOQ to QUIC mapping, or at the MSF, which is an application layer, should we in fact be specifying media to MOQ mapping? In other words, put a video frame inside a MOQ stream. Sorry, that's QUIC mapping inside a MOQ track. So we probably have to do both, right? We have to say put the video frame inside the track, but also how do you carry that video frame over the wire? You put it in a MOQ stream, or you put it sharded across datagrams.
What's the use of this?
To provide consistency for players that read the catalog and now know what they have to do to reconstruct the media. Otherwise, you're going to get a stream that has a payload, and you don't know, is this a whole group? Is this one frame, or is this a slice of a frame? So I feel we need to have an enum, some type of table that explicitly tells you the various ways you might map my media objects onto my MOQ and my QUIC transport link.
Do you have examples of it?
Well, there's working versions already, but there's no determinism. You have to do it by inspection. For example, do you put every frame on its own stream, or do you put the whole group inside one stream?
Is this a command, is this a command for the publisher, how to do this thing?
This is the publisher telling all its receivers how to package the media.
They're gonna see that in the very first object they get?
They have to do it blind, unless like, I'm gonna give you a random document and you've got to parse it. It might be 15 different languages to try to figure out which one it is versus here's a document and the language is French.
I'm missing, what is the receiver gonna do up front before he receives the data that would necessitate reading this and doing something with this before they actually get the data? I'm told stream per subgroup. Do I do something different? Do I set up anything internally to?
Not for stream per subgroup, but you know when you get the payload, does this hold the whole GOP or does it hold one frame? I think we should tell the player that. The player can, let's say a JavaScript player, for example, it can't tell the difference. It's just sort of a page bytes. It has to give it to MSE, and MSE will figure out if it's a GOP or one frame, but it doesn't know. So I think we should add a table that explicitly maps it, and as a packager, you say, this is how I mapped it. There's 4 ways to map it. We map it. Sorry, I can't see.
Victor.
Victor.
First of all, MOQT does not have a thing called a stream. QUIC and Web Transcript has that, and MOQT has subgroups. So
Yes.
like we have to be very clear that stream is not the concept of operator.
If you look at the PR, it goes stream, which is why.
Which is like what it should like. What is really my understanding is it's asking if you use one subgroup or many subgroups. And that's a reasonable thing, but the problem is like there are at least 2 different ways to map SVC video into subgroups, and there will be more. So I think that like one thing you definitely should have a Boolean flag that at least tells you whether it's going to be all in one subgroup or many. But beyond that, it's more like complicated and goes into annoying like things that like really hard to define because people just do their own things.
Okay. Colin?
I think I was going the same way too, if I just don't, I was gonna say that this is, let's first of all, let's only cover the use cases that are useful in practice, since I'm not sure all of these are, right? And then, it seems like at best, there's the only thing you're either gonna have, everything for the GOP is in one group, or there's going to be subgroups inside of that group. I mean, I'm not, do we have any other do we have any other mappings that are really practically used?
On CMAP, there's things called chunks, and there's things called fragments, and there's things called segments. So in CMAP, you could be more explicit. A chunk might be a group of 10 frames. You could say, I've put each chunk inside a stream. Or you could say,
I just mentioned that you can't put it in a stream, you put it inside, you're saying you put different chunks into different groups or subgroups, or just.
I could put my chunks into subgroups.
Because I'm having a group, like, I might vaguely understand, you might want to understand what you're getting, like, like SVC or not. But I mean, are you going to totally know that as soon as you start getting this data, what's happened?
I'm trying to make it easier for player builders to understand what they're getting. If the consensus is the player builders do it all by inspection, but stuff just comes and you start figuring it out on the fly, what's coming, that's okay.
I mean, obviously you got to know what's in it. I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to figure out sort of up levels of the problem we're trying to get at here.
Okay.
What's hard for the players to figure out?
Let's go to the queue and see if you have more insight. Tony.
Yeah, so, interesting here, I think it's harmless to put this information in the manifest, more information for the player if they want it. But based on my experience implementing an encoder on a player, my encoder can do different packages you just selected, and the player does not know anything and is able to get all the cases reconstructed, because the only thing that I'm doing is getting the bytes, delivering and sending. I don't care if it came from datagram, it comes any pixel is I'm just getting those bytes and putting in the next page.
And ordering them.
Ordering them, digitally, and then putting the next. And in all the packaging cases,
Okay, so your argument is in your implementation experience, you haven't had it communicated as long as the
and more
ordering is.
efficiently. But I'm also seeing that in future use cases that I cannot think about,
perhaps it's useful to have this information, it seems happen. Okay? Mike?
Yeah, I think it's very useful to have this type of information. I think that as written, this is very confusing, because this is very old terminology and it should be rewritten in terms of subgroups. I also wonder how much of it in practice ends up being container format specific, and whether there are a lot more like details to work out about, different types of media that.
I was thinking log should define this and the CMAP packaging section should define this, but not MSF. Like,
Potentially, yeah.
like,
But it does seem like exactly the type of information that would be useful for a streaming format at some layer to describe.
okay, so rewrite, make clear that you, Michael.
Well, on what Mike said, and this is confusing. I think it would be great to more have like a guidance for like what even different like mappings should be and why we should choose that. Like stream bound object is not something you are allowed to do.
Yeah.
But if just like erase the middle row and it's subgroup per object or subgroup per group. Yeah, that's or you could have like none of the above. Those are kind of the three options.
The datagram.
Yeah, we need that. You.
Yeah, I think I like this table because we are also on implementation, so we have a way to signal this from the subscriber to find out how to so maybe it could be part of log or something.
Log doesn't have anything like this.
Yeah, I mean with log that something could be signaled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Log only says you must have object per frame. That's it.
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
was it useful?
Ryan?
Generally, majority is quite useful for player implementation. It's useful to know what's coming before you have a chance to parse it, but in the MSE buffer gives you an idea of what's coming and when you might be able to start the player.
Okay.
So as an individual, but more specifically as Mr. Peep, I think the right place to have this kind of spec is whatever level of spec understands what the dependency relationships are among objects in between groups.
What the
Dependency relationships are.
okay.
So I honestly don't put much of this draft. It's just not my technical specialty. But if it's this or lock or wherever is saying like, okay, here's a keyframe, and these objects are dependent on that keyframe, progressive frames, and these are going to be maybe these objects have dependencies. I mean, like I don't want to run through the whole lecture on how dependencies should work with subgroup mappings, but like whatever document defines a set of dependencies between objects can make intelligent statements about how those should be mapped into subgroups. That is the correct location for that. I don't know if that's MSF or somewhere else. That's where you want to put that.
Okay. So Suhas, last one, and then and this is your PR. So.
Yeah, the main reason we wrote that PR is because we had one like 3-line section in the draft that said whatever the packaging format fix we do it. But when the log was there, it was straightforward. We have an input frame that comes in, and we put it in a log container and send it out. The CMSF came, it can be a log, it can be 2 seconds worth of data. It didn't have any layers of indication. So if streaming format using a log, it can basically say whatever you get out of the log output, use it as stream one object per subgroup or one block per subgroup or something like that. And that kind of extra information we wanted at the top level. What we call it, the name can change.
I think what that's missing is what are the dependencies between the containers. Like that's what actually guides that decision, not just like some arbitrary, I want to do one per group. I mean, the purpose of this is to allow the transporter spec and express object dependencies. And like, if you're not going to do that, you might as well just send each thing its own stream. If they're all independent, like if it's audio datagrams that are all, I should say datagrams, they're audio objects that are all independent, and you don't care about group alignment, I mean, are you doing group alignment for some reason, so they're, but, well, like, they could be their own groups in that case, right? But if they're not their own groups because you're aligning with video, those can be all in separate subgroups or data frames because they really have no relationship to each other.
Okay, so I heard fair consensus that it is useful to expose this data, that we need to rewrite it, fix the terminology, remove certain items, and also have a focus on signaling. Okay, let's move on. Next slide. Right, this came from Luke. We picked catalog as the normative track name for the track that carries a JSON object that tells you about all the other tracks that are available. So it's a meta container for tracks. But he raised the issue of, well, what if I have multiple catalogs per namespace? So I got one that's free and one that's for paid users. I want to give different ones, right? They point at different sets of tracks. And he had an idea of using file extension or pseudo file extensions to signal the content type. And then the third question is, should we abandon catalog completely? And you can call it anything you like. It's just a track name. So that's some arguments for relaxing what we have. Some arguments against this. The catalog allows some determinism when we bend URLs. So today when you see M308, you know you're looking at an HLS. You see MPD, you know you're looking at dash. I think this is useful. So when I see catalog, I know I'm looking at MSF. And there are other mechanisms to address the free versus paid. An example, you can put free versus paid as part of your namespace instead of your track. Instead of having like catalog-free or catalog-paid. But are there other opinions on this issue? Do we keep catalog as the only allowed normative name for the catalog, or do we expand it? Victor?
I think it might more sense if we just, whenever you ban the like MSF URL, you just specify the name of the catalog. You already specify the namespace, and you just add the track. And that would work.
But then how would you differentiate pointing at catalogs versus directly pointing at a track for some reason?
Well, you cannot directly point
you cannot point at a track,
very high level, because if it's the log track with like audio, you cannot decode it because you need sample.
But you can imagine a use case where I know it's a track carrying a JSON payload, so I don't have any decode data, and I just want to.
Yeah, but then you know what it is.
Yeah, then you know ahead of time, and I just want to point at that track and not.
If you know ahead of time, it doesn't work, because you just said it. You know ahead of time what it is. And if you don't know what it is, it's a catalog. It makes a lot of sense to me. And there is just like, we're adding like restrictions that does not actually give us that much.
Do you not buy the argument? It's nice to know when you see catalog, you know what you're getting.
If it's nice to know, we can have like shoulds that's like, this is a convention. But like, as you said, if you like have multiple catalogs for different.
Okay, so you're in favor of relaxing it to a should, allowing it, but allowing people to write other things.
Yeah, the important thing is not even like when we're relaxing to should. The important thing is that in the URL is specified tracking as a catalog.
Oh, in a URL, but how do you know it's a URL to a catalog in the first place?
Well, it does, we define that URL. We define MSF URL.
We do. So, but you have to know it's an MSF. I have to tell you this is an MSF URL and then give it to you. For you to know that, right? But if I write catalog in there, you can just see it from a list. Oh, I can spell it.
And you already write MSF.
Oh, we write it in the prefix.
Yeah. But like there is a similar thing in HTTP where it's like the principles that like this is kind of like HTTP because right, we're giving you a pointer to one thing and the thing gives you a pointer to other things. So like the more you just let you specify the name and avoid hard coding any restrictions on how you express the names, the easier your life is.
What about we go even one step further? We say, well, if we know the name's catalog, we don't really need to communicate it. I just give you the namespace, and you ask for the catalog under that namespace. I don't need to signal catalog all the time. That's a bit redundant. As soon as I put MSF in my prefix, you know that you can safely request a track called catalog, and I don't need to tell you that.
I think that's hardcode catalog in all the clients.
Yeah, it's part of MSF. We could, can you just go back to the slide where I had the two URLs? It's like 2 slides back. This one. So this thing here is namespace, and here's our name. You notice it's catalog, 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 catalog every time. So if we say, as soon as you see MSF, the track is names catalog, but you don't need to put it in the URL. I just give you the namespace, and you go to that namespace.
They don't just allow empty track names.
Yeah, the logical consequence of that is just make it the null name. Null name is the catalog. Then signaling nothing actually means get nothing when you get the null name.
I cannot do that. I don't like null anything. I get what you mean.
Or dot. Dot is a universally understood directory, right?
Maybe. It's also a decimal point. It's a lot of other things. That was just a suggestion. Like, does anyone? The current consensus is leave this as it is. So I'm okay for just leaving it as it is, but relaxing it to should, which allows you to change it.
But how do we address the free and the paid
Multiple catalogs.
You can catalog -free, catalog -JSON, and your player has to be smart enough to know that it must go and get the one with matches a regex for free or something. But you do that, right? It's not illegal to do that for MSF. Can we go back to the actual issue slide? Yep. Yeah. So you can either do this approach where you put free or paid, which is what I prefer, put it in the namespace, or I'm saying it's okay, we can allow catalog -free and catalog -JSON, but your player has to, a generic player that's just trying to grab a catalog, it'll probably work, because it doesn't care what the name is, it'll just go. Okay, who's in the queue, Mike?
Oh, I was just going to suggest that empty track name could be interesting for things like catalog or other types of index indices of information. And if you're going to fix one thing, that might be worth considering in place of catalog.
Just empty track name.
But I don't know if that's actually nice yet.
I just worry it's when nothing is the name, it's hard to debug. You can't put it in a debug report. It's just weird. I'd rather have a name for things. We don't need, not saving bits here. Victor again? Okay, and Suhas.
We created the namespace tuples to carry information.
Yeah.
Semantic information. So having this kind of the variable information as part of the better design than stealing or making the string concatenation of the one single track element. So I would go with option 2 that we have.
Yeah. Okay. So if we relax it to should, you can still go with option 2. Yes. And the people who want to use a different one, they're happy. Everybody's happy.
Okay. The track name, writing that the track name can be default catalog. What would you want to do with the namespace?
Yeah.
I'm not saying relax it.
We're not saying it must catalog. We're saying it should. There's a difference, right? It allows you to use a different one. You can call it Suhas.
Right, but it's a catalog.
Right. It's still a catalog. As long as your app knows it's a catalog.
Right. And yeah, then why should we even have anything?
Well, that's, we go.
My point is have it as a default.
Why should we have anything? Because it tells you that it's that you can expect a catalog when you see it. If I call it Suhas, I don't know that it's necessarily a catalog.
That's why I think your .json makes a lot of sense. That's how you're actually going to parse it. You're going to try to actually parse JSON. Forget MOQ at all. You're going to actually try to parse JSON content, right?
And now we're going to encode all my types as pseudo file extensions.
I think what we have is good today. Make the default as catalog. allow the namespace to have error semantic information. I don't think we should relax it. Because very clearly say I want a catalog track name, it's a catalog track name. Anything someone says the free extension.
Okay, so then we don't have consensus here because that's you're opposing. So I don't want to discuss this more now. We'll carry on the discussion on issue 130.
No decision.
Huh?
No decision.
Well, we have Suhas opposed. Well, we have like 3 or 4 people saying we should change it, but I don't hear like super strong to change it. So I don't know. We have enough things to work on. We don't need to invent things at this point. If it's not a big problem for anyone, it's a problem for Luke, but he's not even using it. He's got a hang, which is his own creations.
The one problem with a must is collision. If you ever collide with the user content that's called catalog, you say must, then it means you must not have content called catalog. Right?
That's fine.
We can also say this name
Fine for you, but not fine for somebody else.
We can say this name is reserved.
Well, I mean, given you want to map this to exist, you want a one-to-one mapping to existing systems that are delivering over HLS dash, are you sure you can reserve that?
Close enough to be real, yeah. They use MTD and M3UA as we're not going to do that.
No, real tracks in the namespace.
Yeah.
Real tracks in the namespace must not use the word catalog, right?
I mean, that means you might not be allowed to have like a user called catalog in some systems, right? And they already have a user called catalog.
No, they can absolutely. This can be catalog slash catalog slash catalog, and then you can have a track called catalog. That's perfect.
So what I'm saying is the catalog is in the namespace of all the tracks, right? The track names of real content coexist.
Yes, they
Catalog
must
track
not
name
be
in that same
catalog.
namespace.
Catalog's a reserved name.
Okay, I think we've been going with the convention of throwing an underscore for the reserved namespace, so you might want to choose underscore catalog.
That's okay, because if you think about it, what we.
I don't care on this, like,
Yeah.
I'm
Delete dots.
trying to help.
So we got underscore dot and just. Okay,
Let's get that story straightened out of how we get reserved names, right?
So you have 15 minutes left.
yeah,
I don't know if you
Move
want to
on.
face plan
It's
on
more
names.
important to resolve other issues. Next slide. So, can track properties be modified after creation? When I mean track properties, I don't actually mean MOQ tracks. This is tracks within a catalog, MSF catalog. And for example, you want to change the width and the height. You've got a slides that the user is producing, and they're scaling their desktop, and you want to transmit this. Our current mechanism says anytime you change property, the track properties are immutable once declared in a catalog. So you declare them as a width and a height, and then if you change it, you should stop that track and republish another one with different properties. Perhaps a naive approach, but that's what we have. Victor, I'll get to you. I just want to explain the problem. I did slide share. So what I'm proposing in our Delta update, we create a new verb, which is called update, and it just allows you to change whatever properties you want. So everything else stays the same from the parent, and you override with new properties like width and height. So it'll be very small update signals. Go to Q, Victor.
So the next slide, I think, is also relevant to this, right? It's the JSON one.
I don't know what the next slide is.
I think it should be big, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
JSON merge patch.
Yeah. So okay, this is the problem. Is like I was originally a fond of like this explicit add track remove track. And
Yeah, we did it because I think you proposed that it was cleaner to do exactly what we
it
wanted.
made much more sense, but the problem is like we currently have this mechanism where you can just open a new group and resend it to our catalog, and that way you can modify whatever you want.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep supporting that, we basically have to go with something that's like lets you modify anything. At that point, we're kind of stuck with this.
Well, you can do that anyway. We just invented Delta updates to avoid sending a big document.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like, if you could have like operations added, delete, and you could not send Delta updates, that would have limited you to like making updates that are valid, which is to say like, the problem is like, if you change the codec of audio track from opus to A, C into Netherlands, for instance. Clearly, like an issue. And we were trying to avoid this, but you can already do it by republishing the entire catalog. So if this means, because we have ability to do this, effectively means you already have to like have a mechanism where you reconstruct that blob for the JSON blob before and after, and on the application you handle the differences between those on every update. So I think once we consider that the JSON patch makes sense. Because you have to diff to JSON.
We tried to do JSON patch. We actually had JSON patch. We had objections that it was a big, heavy library that did a lot of things and it wasn't available in every target environment. And people wanted a cleaner mechanism that was simple, that is only what we did. So we dropped JSON patch and went to this, which I think if we add update, it allows you to do a lightweight change. Nothing stops you from republishing the complete catalog. The difference with this is, and we had this with Dash as well, and eventually we added a patch mechanism to Dash manifests, is that publishing the whole XML in case of Dash, or maybe the JSON here, is a heavier operation than just an object model update inside your player. Adrian.
Is there a kind of point in time that this relates to?
Yes, this comes as an explicit object. It's got a generated at timestamp, which is microseconds, I forget, which is essentially a sequence counter as well. It tells you this one is later than the last one you got. So you basically read this, it says, this is an update, make these changes to your object model of the tracks, and you do it. And it's a replacement for sending a complete catalog again, which can include DRM data and NIT data. It can be a big thing.
It's a bit like some of the games that low latency slash plays, where you just go, you don't need, I don't need to send you the last 1,000 not changed, I'm just telling you the delta.
Exactly. This is just, I'm changing the width and height of one thing, not redescribing 17 tracks.
But the semantics of that generated at are clear, so timestamps don't come into it.
If this is long, yeah, this is a payload 5 times.
Which makes sense.
Okay. So I don't hear objections, so we'll make a PR. Next slide, please. So another issue around Delta updates, they're not generic. As was mentioned, we used JSON patch, but it was heavy. Luke has come along and suggested we should use JSON merge patch. Slightly different. JSON merge patch is a lot lighter. The trouble with JSON merge patch, it doesn't handle arrays at all. It treats it, it's great when you've got key value pairs only or objects and it updates. So you would like to do that because in a catalog, you're allowed to add custom data, as I've showed here. So your app can come along and just add this, which is a nice, flexible, usable scheme if you've got data you want to send along with that. However, we provide no mechanism to change this because we're focused on just updating tracks. So one argument is you shouldn't, if you want, you can just reissue the catalog with the new information. That's nothing stopping you doing that, and that's one approach. Or if this data is going to change a lot, you should take it out of the catalog and put it in a data track that you define and that you declare in the catalog, and then your player subscribes to that and gets these frequent updates. So should we figure out a way to allow our update mechanism to change custom data, or do we say we're not going to do that and you should figure out some other way to do it?
What is the real use case for this?
What's a real use case for custom data? For updating custom data, it might be they're selling you, it's a game going on, and there are coupons for pizzas. I don't know.
I think the most common is like you have it's a chat client and you have a list of users in the catalog, or there's names and you update this.
User list has changed. But the better strategy for me is keep a track of users.
Yeah,
and just update that.
Yeah, I think that's what we do.
Okay.
Roster track.
Don't put it in, yeah. I like the design philosophy. The catalog is there to describe the other tracks being produced. It's not a generic mechanism to carry all possible application data. And the beauty of MOQ is we can have lots of parallel tracks and we can decouple them.
The whole point of ideas is that each file is a semantically container for things.
Yeah.
It's audio, so audio is mixed media.
Yeah.
Like something that we get audio track or subtitle track, viewing track. I would say this custom is its own track, which should not mix business logic.
Yeah. Okay. So for this, we're going to stick with our mechanism. We'll add the update. If you want to do custom data, you can do it. You can issue a catalog update, or you can do it. Did you get that?
Stick to this and merge and to.
No. We're not going back. I don't think there's any appetite to go back to Jason Patch. Jason.
Yeah, I'm strongly opposed to both of those.
Okay, yeah, I would agree, it's immutable, given how easy it is to add custom tracks.
Yeah,
You want custom
we've only got
tracks,
3 operations.
We lose the compression efficiency.
Because if you enable this, people will use it,
Yes.
and it will get a.
Yeah. Okay, so there was fairly strong opposition to.
If you enable that, we will all have to parse it.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Right, next slide, please.
So opposition to patch, opposition to merge, and we stick to the.
Yeah, we just stick to, if your data is going to change a lot, don't put it in the catalog. Put it in a data track, like an event timeline or something, or your own invention.
I think I put it slightly stronger than that, because if it's application data, put it in an application track.
Yeah.
I think that for me is the ground.
But there's
not actually frequency.
If it's not going to change for the life of the publication, then actually the catalog's a reasonable place to put it. Because then I stop the whole subscribe mechanism, there's less stuff being cached in relays. It's okay. So
I can see that, Gosh.
okay. This slide, I just wanted to highlight, there's a new compression format for CMAP over MOQ. This came from Ivan Technologies, it's called LockMap. So Lock was invented because CMAP has overhead for audio, but in fact, you can compress out, you can delta encode your move headers, and you can basically you can get rid of a lot of the inefficiency for CMAP carrying audio by doing this. They built a full working prototype, they signaled it, they're getting like 20 to 30% bit efficiency, which is a very nice compression ratio just for signaling. So it's an independent draft right now, but I would like to reference it inside CMSF as a recommended way of reducing bits across the wire.
It's mostly when the payload is small.
It's for video files,
Video
it's de minimis. It gives you 5%, 4% gain, something. But for audio files, 30, 35%, which I think is good. For free, right? We're not changing the codec here. We're just changing the packaging.
Do you think it will help if the content of this
Okay, so here's a question. Should we bring it into the CMSF draft? Have a section there saying how to do it, and then it's just a mode of operation. I like that idea, yeah. Any objections to?
Yes, so it's good, but we should add a new key as well, right?
Sure, so we'll have to say, this is delta encoded, so you know to reconstruct the original data before you feed it to the decoder.
And presumably there are no IP considerations.
Okay, so that's a good point. So we should check, yeah, anything contributed to IETF has to satisfy the IETF. We can make sure that that's okay. They may not want to.
I mean, usually.
Yeah. Well, so we need to ask them if they want to contribute. And if so, we're willing to put it into CMSF. Because I think by default, I see no reason not to use this with all, certainly with all audio.
Or when I send the queue.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Corbin, hey, you know more about this than we do.
Yeah, for sure. I know about this. So basically, it's a lot of data is basically the same all the time, and there's a lot of things in the init segment, like taking typically saying a default segment or sample duration. So basically, what I do is that in every audio group, I send an initial timestamp, and then I just, for most cases, that's enough. Then for the rest of objects, no data is needed because the size is given from the object itself, and the duration is given by a default the duration, and it's work for encryption as well, actually. And in most cases, no extra overhead as well. And if you have other cases like two samples, then you get some extra thing because when you need to encode one of the sizes and so on. So it's a rather simple scheme, but of course in the client you need to rebuild the full CMF chunk and put it into the MSF player. We don't have any patterns for sure. Maybe someone else has, but.
So, but would you be willing? So people here like it, and the question is, do we leave it as an external draft that we reference, or could we take this and have you write a PR that actually puts it inside the PMSF draft directly?
I'm fine with that, but of course we need an independent implementation.
You need a, sorry, what?
We need an independent implementation as of all specs, of course. So.
Okay, we can probably find one for that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We're running out of time.
So we write a PR.
Afterwards, we communicate with Torben and double check that they're willing to contribute it, and then submit it as a PR against the adopted CMFF. As long as it satisfies IP requirements on both sides, on their side and on ATF.
The current implementation is MIT license.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, this.
Great. Thank you, Will. Okay, thanks. Time's over. Can we just skip to see what I'll skip the slides.
You can take like 10 seconds per slide if you would like.
Yeah. We just have two left, so this is Wendell.
Yeah, it's me. I mean, it's supposed to be 20 minutes. I asked 3 minutes, and now I have 10 seconds. And I said yes.
Well, I mean, you gave up the time.
Okay.
There's a new draft. Read it, please.
Yeah. Okay.
No, say what it is.
Well, it is for MPQTS. So MPQTS is very old but famous and still very used media, and it has a lot of very specific characteristics. And so what we want is to give to the subscriber some guidelines to actually read the object. So we propose next slide. You can just go to the next slide. We propose some keys like how many packets per object, is the random access is the same question as the unique data, is it like in the catalog or is it in the object 0? SCTI-35 can be put as well to know which PID is for the SCTI-35. Demultiplexing as well is something which is which requires some information that useful in the catalog. So with the PR, we can with the draft, and we can continue the work.
Okay, thank you. All right, Colin, you're up.
Really quick, I don't know why are you planning to send transfer stream over transfer stream. I implemented transfer stream so I know about it. Transfer stream is designed to run.
Go ahead, I'm gonna swap with you.
Okay.
How much data network?
You guys have 27 minutes to work it out, but if Suhas's high priority, I can swap it. I don't care.
I'll do it in this order.
Okay. You're not really going to get to the second one. Let's put it that way. Unless nobody cares about any of these issues.
Okay, I'm not sure that anyone's going to care about any of these. Okay, so carrying on here. Next slide. Yeah, a bunch of things are done. Next slide.
Can't set the timer if you can tell me.
Time is over already.
I'm trying to reset it. Can you set it?
So the main thing that we did here is, describe the threat model, all this stuff, really huge things. A lot of this sort of came from Magnus, and I think there's a bunch of stuff there. Also important, but we don't protect against. So that is all merged in now. Please reread at some point. Next one. Big part of this is this fan out attack. Briefly to summarize this is on a classical, when you're trying to look about how much data you need to break an encryption algorithm to have enough data that you can really make an attack against it.
you're looking at how much content can be encrypted with the same keys. And we have this weird thing where you can fan out an attack to, let's say you have 100,000 subscribers to a YouTube channel. We can fan out a different attack across all of them. And you can get 100,000 parallel sorter computations at once of knowing what type of things might work or not work. Subscribe in more detail. Magnus raised this, which I think you've written a paper on it. But anyway, that's in there. We've readjusted the key length discussions about that, though for all practice purposes, they don't change anything for the crypto schemes any of us are using, or things that we do, unless you're doing incredibly long-lived things stand out to a really lot of people. Okay, next one. There was many complications about how to canonicalize the integers that we're talking about before we get on to them. And I don't think it's realistic to think that every real, like remember we have 9 ways to spell 0, right? So I don't think there's any reason we should expect every relay in the path to not accidentally respell 0 a different way. And because that seems likely to happen, what we decided to do is just recanonicalize everything as 64-bit integers for the purposes of crypto. There'll be just less bugs and less flow bad from this. That had 20 minutes of debate last time we talked about it. Next one. Publisher priorities. Okay, so this was a change test discussion. So the question is can relays change publisher priority? And I think we came to the conclusion, no, that was a bad thing. They did not have the information to do that. They should not do it. They need to obviously be able to read it, but they can't change it. So we threw it into the authenticated data. Next one. Long story, if you want to have object IDs that are larger than 32 bits, this is not a strat for you. Why that limitation is there is a longer story, but there's no known use case for which this is a problem right now. And I think this will be fine. Next one.
Okay, so actually group IDs are a use case for gigantic group IDs, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we could use more than 96 bits, but the crypto's slower, so everybody wants to use
No, I understand that.
We gave all 64 to group IDs, so group IDs are not limited in any way. And we limited the other 32 bits. We could have slid that boundary anywhere you wanted, but there was no good argument for sliding.
I was prepared to bite shed this, but I think this is the right answer because I think some people are tempted to encode things in group IDs, and I don't think anyone's trying to encode anything in an object ID. So I think that's correct.
Yeah, okay. My same reading about. In fact, I'm one of the guilty people trying to put things.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay. Guilty as charged. Okay, next. Speaking of protocol, by the way, but it's using group IDs. Okay, padding. So this is an optional extension we don't have to use, that we added, that is effectively a way to add, okay, so with certain audio codecs, they're variable length or variable rate bitrate audio codecs, and there is a belief that some information is leaked just by looking at the length of the packets, that you might be able to figure out some information about what's being said. And look, at some level, this is constantly true. If I phone a bank IVR and the only 2 things I can possibly answer is definitely yes or no, just the length of those messages told you all the information. So we do padding. So it's a way that allows you to pad in a standardized way where you round it up, where you pad up to the sort of natural power of 2. It's a pretty common security padding scheme. There's not much to it. I think the only possibly controversial topic on that is what you fill the pads to, whether they're 0 or random data or something else, but it's all encrypted, so it doesn't matter whatever you're doing. So, next slide.
Well, before you run off,
yep.
Victor has implemented padding in our code base for some like data rate measurement thing, which I don't understand, but it'd be great if you two could connect to share your insights and do this in a commonly useful way rather than have 2 separate. Not that our thing is standard.
Can somebody just take an action item for Victor and I just think?
All right, I'll do it since it's fine. I brought it up. Okay.
No, I'm totally. I mean, padding is irrelevant, it doesn't matter how you do it, but it'd be nice not to do it 50 ways, right?
Yeah, and not that we've tried to standardize it, but it would be great to also enable that use case as well for padding.
I agree. And that might need a change here, it might need a little bit more flexibility than.
I don't know how it works,
no
so
problem.
who knows?
Next slide. Okay, so this was a big topic last time, which is this is not capable of protecting tracked properties because they're sending control messages, they're not sending object data. And we went through an incredible number of connections to try and figure out various ways that we can do this. And every single one of them ended up in the end looking like, well, take that data and effectively turn it into an object property. And we're just like, so let's not do that. If you want to do this, you can put the data in your data, and you can put it in the data that's encrypted, or figure out something else. But we decided not to add this complexity to the specs. It didn't seem to really add anything real. And it turned into basically doing the obvious, doing something that the spec already supported, which is put it in the payload or somewhere else. So we're, whatever. That's how it was resolved. It's clear in the spec. It doesn't do that. Next slide. There's diagrams are messed up. Next slide. Added test vectors. Next slide.
On track properties, I think Loc brought it up because I think the video config was a track property, right? We wanted to know whether or not you want to authenticate the segments you're about to pass to your decoder, the init segment that you're about to pass to your decoder are legit.
Put them on a track, man. That's a great idea. That's what we just, like, that was the same comment was made in the previous one, right?
But
make a track for your init segments. Or put them at the beginning of each object of the group, or, do anything you want. But the control plane of the relays is not really not a great place for end-to-end authenticated data.
Be an encrypted header for the first object.
Okay, so private track properties are still okay because you throw those in the oh no, but it's still a track property. It's not the data.
No, it's not track. I mean, you can put those properties, if it's a property that's carried in the data plane, you're fine. But you come to the question of how often to send it.
If fetch state is object 0, so let's go with the object 0. If you do not get object 0, you don't get anything else anyways. Right? The balance here is that if you want to do that or define an entire new encryption scheme for something or that, we basically came to that. It's too much of a
call out people, we have not validated these test vectors for second implementation. So if somebody implements this and finds that the test vectors are right or wrong, I would love to know that. Next slide. These are, purely editorial mistakes that we need to fix. They'll be fixed before the next, before Vienna. And next slide. And so, look, I don't know anything else that we need to do with this draft to call it done. There's a couple things called out right here, but I mean, I think we're getting really close. So I would like to ask people to give this a good, I'm not asking for it to go to last call right now, but I'd like to give it a good read with the state of mind of, is this draft ready for last call? So I think it's pretty close to ready for our working group last call. So, this would be a great time to let me know if you think there's something, big things. Yeah.
So I'm all in favor of shipping things out of here that are done rather than just having it festering on our to-do list. But what do you think the risk is in MOQ drift, given that we blow up protocol every two drafts?
The stuff that we've got in here has been stable for I don't think there's much risk in that. But I think that where my take at doing it would be working group last call it, and then sit it in the freezer until we have two choices. We could send it on to the ISG, or we could leave it in the freezer never to be touched again and then send it the same as MOQ. But one way or another, I'd like to close it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not allow us to continually reopen it. it requires, I don't know, yeah, it's possible
Yeah, I mean,
to rename properties to be values or something, you know, it's, I can see a terminology drift, but I don't think we're gonna have.
But that's easy, that's gonna sit in the RC editor anyway, right?
Yeah,
So that, in, whatever, it's this stupid code,
Ref mist.
yeah, that's the one. Okay, that's easy to fix, I just, the problem with waiting with the ISG is we're gonna lose space. The problem with going to the ISG early is that, you know, they're gonna be like, what the hell is this? Like,
It's very standalone, they won't have a hard time doing it, because this is S-frame. The document you need to understand to read this is S-frame, which is an RFC,
all
not
right,
MOQ
when
transfer.
you're ready, let's have a conversation online, we can leave the board and everyone else with it.
That's it?
Yeah, thank you. Wow, that was lazy. Okay, Suhas, you have 15 minutes.
So I can present it from here, right?
You can do whatever you like. If you have, are the slides up in here somewhere?
Yes, it's called,
Did you put it in session 11?
in both. I think the newest one is called authorization in MOQ,
AUSC?
or Z.
Okay, that,
You should have V2 on top.
yeah.
No, this is the old one.
What?
It's the old one. On the top, you should have V2, is a V1.
Okay, but it's then it's not here. Why don't you?
Well, it's, I think it's,
It's another blue one, yeah.
can you, do you have the,
You can share your screen or we can.
or you can share yourself from your own, if you stop sharing.
I will.
Can we just turn Alan and Claude loose for 1 week on this tool?
I know Eckert has a project to implement the data tracker using Claude, which I think would solve these problems. I think you just try to like play with Claude, but it's an interesting exercise.
So should I drag and drop this one, or? Never done, sharing this one, how do we do this? Search for this.
Confirm, you need to confirm. No, that's not sharing your screen.
This one, screen share.
Okay, now they can grant us to good. And it's gonna share everything on your screen, so make sure you close everything you don't want to. Yeah.
I grant you share now.
Share screen, now, okay, yes, let's go ahead, yeah, close things first.
Just 1 second. I'm wasting the 5 minutes I don't. So
You have 13 minutes. You start talking.
We are seeing things, yes.
Okay, cool. So this is basically, we have been working on authorization schemes in MOQ for a while. We have 2 different ways to do it. One is that for MOQ, another thing is private class. Basically, few of us were thinking about what we are defining is useful and what needs to be very apt in order to get this working. So the idea was to kind of, let's build an app. One of the apps that we built was a simple chat app. And if they're real users, how would a system like that would use the authorization schemes that we define here to make work? This is based on the experiment. So what we did, we tried like 3 different flows. We implemented 3 different flows. One is like, let's say if you have a chat system where public channels, they are authenticated or private channels. And these public channels, or anyone can join in, but they should have some kind of authorization. They could not just show up and be able to access. And there are other kind of channels where you need to have an IP back. For example, you should have a Google account, or you should have your company account. And the roles you are, and the rooms and the roles that you're allowed to access will be based on who you are in the company and what roles you have. So the first one, where the guest flow basically says that if someone who does not have an identity in cisco.com, but I want to invite them to watch a presentation of something, they might still be able to get a very fine scoped, timely token, and that is also like a cat token, and that defines what scopes are like this. So that would be that user would be allowed to just watch for the next 1 hour. nothing more. And they'll not be able to contribute anything into the, so they'll not have a published access, but they'll have read access or subscribe access. On the other hand, if you are following something like an IDP based, like you're in a meeting like this, where everyone needs to have an data tracker account, they will log in through data tracker IDP, which are stacked by, and then they have a token service that would either mint your C4M token, which is CAP tokens, or if it's a private pass, you basically have blind tokens that will be allowed to make it happen. And how this all works. So to build this prototype, we used, these are the libraries we used. We had like CAT token, Rust-based CAT token for the relay side, and we had a TypeScript CAT token library, and we used MOQ web as the lead application to build the chat application on top of that. And then we did a small change on the MOQ RS to kind of put hot hooks with help of Mike. That way we can hook in either privacy pass or we can hook in the CAT for MOQ tokens. And then we also used for the on the client side on the privacy pass, the Cloudflare had a privacy pass TypeScript library, and the issuer for the privacy pass was Cloudflare. And in order to do this, like in all of these things, we also need something like who's the authority who would generate the CAT tokens. And we had like a very simple service that would generate the tokens when the request comes in. And most of these things are already open source. If someone wants to go play, they can go and do these things. So these are the services we use and build, right? We have a client, which is MOQ web based client, is a chat client. And we have a MOQ, which is like a MOQ authorization token service, we call it MOQ. And we have a private pass issuer. So a typical flow is that if you think about like a guest coming in and they want to do, they basically first talk to the token minting service and say, hey, I'm a guest, I have no idea, I do not have any IDP back in. So what it would do is it would generate a pseudo anonymous ID for him and puts him in a room that's public rooms, because the token service would know what rooms they are available or they're accessible to or not, and provides a token, and that's the token you put in your client setup and talk to the relay. And because we are using unauthorized, not IDP based backed tokens, so there should be a shared key between the token provider and relay so that can validate that user is authorized or not. This is basically client coming in with no IDP in there. That works fine. And now we can use the same CAT token, but we have an IDP, like I have an account for Google or something. In this case, the client would basically first do the Google sign in. Google would give the JOT token. You take the bearer token and say, hey, by the way, I've been told by Google that this is my JOT and I want to access these rooms. What permissions do I have? Based on that, the token minting service will look at, okay, this is fine. I identify who the user is, and it will generate a CAT token with the scopes and actions that's basically let him access the more authenticated rooms or the private rooms, which you will not be able to get an access if you are a guest user. And the rest of the flow is very simple, straightforward. This works too. And this is like what the privacy pass flows is basically. The challenge here is that with privacy pass, we do not want relay to know who I am, and we do not want IDP to know what users I'm accessing. That's why it's called privacy pass, right? I'm going to tell relay, hey relay, I need to trust an IDP called Google IDP, and I want to access Bill's video feed. But it does not basically know that who I am. Only the IDP says, whoever uses this token, trust them, because we both have a trust relationship. And that's basically works too. In this case, this is where we needed an extension into MOQ, that Alan was talking about our challenge, where the client will go to the relay and say, I have no token, but I would like to, I'm a privacy, the relay says, I understand privacy pass, and it will basically use them a challenge. You take the challenge and go to your attester. In this case, again, is the mode. And mode is the one that proxies your request off to the privacy pass issuer, because the token request on the privacy pass issuer is a protected HTTP resource, and you should not be able to, anyone in the internet can't go and access. So there's a mutual MPLS or there's HTTP signatures that we do between the mode and the privacy pass issuer, so that once it takes a challenge that's planted by the client and gives it to the privacy pass issuer, and mode proxies whatever the response that comes from the privacy pass issuer back to the client. and the client can basically take the token and give it to relay next time, and relay will be able to give the access and for all of that redundant phase. So basically, this is kind of quite a bit of hands that we need to do to make all this is working, but the basic flow still works, and we have kind of an application that kind of shows how this is working. So just in the picture form, this is what it would look like if your auth token parameter says this is a token type and this token value. If it's the cat for MOQ token, the token type would be the cat, and then you sign using the POSE and you have the signature. The same with privacy class, it has its own types that this defines what kind of privacy class authentication that you're going to do. So in general, as part of this, what we learned out of this experience is that the proposed MOQ authorization mechanisms is heading in the right direction. Yes, based on the discussion, this might be some work we need to do to make sure that all these flows have nice error and a challenge that we need to support. But both flows are using the mechanisms of auth token, either in the client setup or in subscribe, for example. This seems to work. We had an open issue on MOQ transport that what design we will go figure out. And as part of developing some of these things on the privacy class itself, we found that there might be some more clarifications we can add to the craft to make it more stronger, which the 4 issues that we created, like between us, the authors, we plan to update it before IETF. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions for Suhas?
Just words.
Okay, I'm not going to try to cram it on draft in 5 minutes. We made it, everybody.
Which draft is it?
No.
Not a lot. I don't want to speak talk. Okay. We made it. Tip the presenters, please. They did a great job. Let's see. Mike, please stay for now, and thanks to you for like a great venue and so much work to get it. You remind me why I don't want to host and share again at the same time, because like when you did all the monitors and stuff was very important for this success of this. So thanks. Does anyone have anything else to do with the group? All right, we will see you online in a couple of weeks for the next virtual internal. Failing that, we'll see you in Vienna. Good. Have a good weekend, everyone. Travel safe. We have asked for 3 sessions. Nothing has been granted to us yet. I would anticipate that if we get a third one, it will be on Friday afternoon. So, fine, cool. Oh, right. You need help cleaning up this room? Are you sure? I mean, I can
take it, I guess, your
please take your garbage to the kitchen rather than leaving it for Mike to clean up. Have a good flight. Another one down the drain. I think we made a lot of progress on Octane today. Alan seems pretty happy. Nobody cried and stormed out of the room. Sure.